Hi guys, welcome to Jason's Tricking Info, and in this video I'm going to be doing a chaining video where I talk about chaining and show you some real life chaining and explain what I'm doing. And I made one or two mistakes which I caught and then went back, and I'm going to talk about stuff as we go through the video and do voiceovers and picture-in-picture style stuff. So here we go. Alright, so here I'm opening up a bag of chains. You need a knife or something sharp to get into these bags because they're not easy to just rip into with your bare hands. You gotta have like a knife or something to get into these bags of chains. And then you will find what you will see me pick up is a chaining wrench, which is a cam tightening tool which fits into the hole on the cans to tighten the cams down after you have gotten the hooks hooked onto the chains, which I will show you here in a couple minutes. Okay, you see how these cross-link hooks are facing the tire? That is wrong. You really want to have the hooks facing away from the tire instead of towards the tire. If you look closely, the hooks are facing towards the tire, and later on I come back and change this, but this was a mistake I made in the beginning that I didn't notice I was doing, and I came back and fixed it later. So never face any hooks towards your tire. Alright guys, here I am trying to lay the chains on the tire in just such a way I'm trying to get the chains so that they're not all twisted and stuff, and that the links are looking good, and that all the cams are in the open position, which means they're in the not tightened down position so that I can tighten them later after I hook them together, after I go in reverse. Sometimes you set up to go in reverse, sometimes you set up to go forward. This is how most people chain who are not using chaining blocks. So at this particular time I was thinking about just putting one set of chains on, which is not the legal way, but that's what I was originally going to do it, because I didn't think I really needed chains on. If you look at the roads, there's not a whole lot on them, so I was just going to put on one set, and then later on I went ahead and decided to put the second set on. So that's why I did things this way, and this is why I'm already moving to the other side instead of opening up the other set. So I do go back and open up the other set here in a little bit, because I decided I better go ahead and put the second set on. So a set is 2 chains, 1 on each side, or a bag of chains. So here I am putting the other set on, and here you see, let's see, as soon as I get the chain just right, you always want to hang the cam side towards the ground and pick it up, and also make sure that the hooks are facing outward of the tire, which I'm trying to see here if that's what I did, and it looks like I did. If you look real closely, the hooks are facing away from the tire instead of against it. That is the proper way, and you always want to set up the same way on both sides, so that when you back up or go forward, your chains are adjusted or laying in the same manner, so that you can hook them in the same place when you go to hook them together and tighten them down after you back up or go forward, depending on which way you set up for. So this is common stuff to happen, links and hooks getting stuck together, especially if you got used chains. They can really be in a mess, and they can really fight you. But always make sure that the cams are in the open position all the way around. There's usually 4 of them, sometimes only 3, but usually there's 4. And the cams always go to the outside of the tire so you can get to them easily to tighten down. And so there's that. I cut a minute or 2 out because I got up in the truck and sat in the front seat for a little bit. I was getting ready to back up and put that one set on, and then I decided, oh, I better put that second set on. So I chopped that minute or 2 out that I sat up in the driver's seat. Then I decided I better get out and put that second set on, and so that's what's going on here. I'm putting my gloves back on and going back out to put the other set on. So it kind of cost me some time, but it was probably good that I went ahead and put that second set on, because you just never know what you're getting into once you get down the road. The roads can go from looking good like this, like it did out here, to being really bad just not even a mile up the road. It can drastically change. So usually when those chain laws go up, there's a reason for it. So here I am getting the other bag out, opening up, and getting ready to put the other set on. If you notice, there at the side of the screen you can see my phone, and I'm controlling my GoPro with my phone, and I'm wearing my GoPro on what's called a chesty, which puts the GoPro right about mid-chest, and that's the level that my GoPro was at. And I was trying to keep track of whether or not I was getting everything I wanted to in the camera view, but I was also trying to not dawdle too much on chaining and get the chains on. And so here I am carrying the phone just so I can try to keep track of whether or not I was getting the right view in the camera, so you could basically get a good gist of what I was doing here. So here I'm picking up the chains. You want to have the cam side drooping towards the ground and pick up the side you're going to throw on the back. Also making sure that you're picking it up so that the in a manner so that the hooks are facing up and the cams are facing towards you, which could mean you need to flip them around the other way and flip-flop them and stuff. So here we are trying to get the chains all going the same way. This was the third chain to put on, and then there'd be a number 4 to put on the other side, and making sure that the cams are all in the open position and the hooks are facing the outside, and that they're all laying the same way, which means you're hanging them alongside, drooping off the same side, whether it be the front or the back, on all 4 tires. So here's a guy asking me if I have chains to sell him, and another truck driver. Every year there is a truck driver that doesn't know how to chain, doesn't have chains, and is up here in the mountains not knowing what he's doing, realizes that the chain law is up and that they need to stop, and they put themselves in a position where if they get caught, they're going to get like over $1,000 fine for not having chains, because it is illegal to continue to drive a semi-truck without chains on past this point and to continue on. And that driver is just another one of, every time I stop to chain, it seems like there's, at least every other time at least, there is some trucker that is up there that never has chains, who doesn't have chains and doesn't know how to put chains on because they never learned, which is, in my opinion, really bad, because every truck driver should know how to chain before they ever get out there on their own. Their trainer and their company, between the two, should have made sure they know how to chain. I had to go through 2, 3, if not more companies before I came to Alan Ritchie, where they taught me how to chain, because we go over the mountains in Colorado all the time. Here's where I realized that on the passenger side I had a chain that I put on with the hooks down too, so I had to flip it around because I had the cams going the right way out the front facing outside the tire so I could get to them, but I had the hooks down. So here I had to take and flip them around so the hooks were facing away from the tire and then reset them up. And then here I'm going to go on the other side and fix the other side as well. Here in a bit you're going to notice that I have the other one wrong as well and fix it. So here's me fixing my mistake. And then you got to make sure that the chains aren't going to hook onto each other when you pull forward or backward, whichever way you're going. Make sure that everything's laying nice. Make sure everything's open, that the cams are all in the open position, not the locked tight position. And you'll see what I'm talking about here in a little bit. But this is making sure that the chains are sitting nice and pretty. I'm going over to the other side now to fix this other side. I think is here's where I'm gonna notice that I put it on wrong, and I'm gonna fix it. Basically, I just gotta flip it upside down and bring it over the other direction so that it's hanging the same way as the other three, so that they're all hanging in order to go backwards, so that they all come up and the hooks and everything are sitting at the same place, hopefully. And when you go backwards, you got to make sure that you don't spin the tires and mess up your chains. You just gently go back, you put your differential on, and easily go backwards very carefully. And make sure all the cams are open. Like I said, I'm going to keep saying that, and I'm going to keep repeating stuff so that it sinks in. So make sure that you lay them all nice and pretty. Make sure that the links are good. Make sure that so when you go backwards, everything comes up and around nicely when you go back, and the chains go underneath and up and around. Try to make everything as neat as possible. It'll help the outcome of the chaining go a lot better, and the better off you put the chains, and the neater you do, the better they'll go on, and the tighter they'll go on, and the less likely you'll have a problem of losing chains, having them come off and ripping your crossfires or poking a hole in your tire and stuff like that. And hopefully you don't have to have them on very long. So here's where I'm going to go backwards to get the chains on. When you're by yourself, chaining by yourself, you really got to pay attention. You got to set your mirrors up in either your driver's side or your passenger side. It doesn't matter. Usually the driver's side is easier, but you can do your passenger side as well. You just got to change your mirrors so that you can see. And I don't know if I'm going to show the mirror because I'm wearing my GoPro, but that's what I'm doing here is I'm adjusting my driver's side mirror so I can see down at the tire and the chains, and see when the other end of the chain comes up to about the front right corner of the tire or the front left corner of the tire, whichever, so that probably the front left corner in this case on all four tires since I'm going in reverse. And then when I go out there to hook up the chains, hopefully all of them are in the front left corner, because hopefully I got them all set up the same way. And then all I have to do is go in there and hook them up, get as many links of those 4 links in as possible, and then I can take the chaining wrench and tighten them up. So let's see how well I did here as soon as I get out. I'm going to get out, I'm going to go out and see how I did. And I put the chaining wrench right over there because I need it out of the way while I put my gloves on. And I'm going back probably from my phone. Okay, it's really hard to get a good view, especially when you're wearing a GoPro, to get a really good view of what I'm doing right now. You always want to hook the back first and then do the front, and then same thing when you go to unhook, you want to unhook the back and then unhook the front. Always is the best way to do it if at all possible. It's not always easily done, but once you get one side hooked, then you can do the other. You want to get as many links in. See here, I got the hook, and I'm trying to get to that fourth link, but I can't. And usually got to tug and pull on the excess loose chain and pull it tight, up and around, and get as tight as possible. It takes a lot of oomph and strength sometimes to pull it, but you just gotta keep trying to get it as tight as possible and get as many links in. And then hopefully when you go to tighten the 4 cams, that's how they tighten, just like that. You put the deal in, and hopefully by the time you get to the 3rd cam, it's really tight and getting hard to tighten it. You can almost tell that this is almost too loose here because it shouldn't have been that easy to get the cam tight. And then that one was a little bit too easy. So that was all 4 cams, and that was a little too easy to do. So that's a good, if they're that easy to tighten, you definitely didn't get them tightened enough. But I still got to drive forward and try to get them a little tighter so that they don't risk falling off and doing damage to the tires or the crossfires or anything like that. So same thing, hooking up the inside. You want to hook up as many links as possible and do the same thing. And if you watch me, I'm going to pull on these chains up and keep pulling them up and up and up. And this is what you do, is you just keep pulling and tugging and tugging and pulling, and then bring it up and bring them together and try to get them. The tighter you get these chains on from the get-go, the better off you're going to be. You want to make sure that these hooks, when you get done hooking, are not, the hook end is not up against the tire, that it is facing outside of the tire, not into the tire, so you got to turn it. And this is one thing I was fighting with to get the hook so that it wasn't facing the tire. And here I am fighting and fighting. And I hooked it on right there for a split second. And then I'm working it and trying to get it. And then I tighten it up temporarily because I think I did a drive forward and then I came back out and retightened these to be better so they would be on better. So here I am going to the passenger side. I'm going to get those all hooked and tightened down. And then I'm going to do a little bit of a drive forward action. And, well, looks like we're on to the next clip where I'm unchaining. So I didn't show you that part. But here I am unhooking everything. It's real easy to unchain. You just unhook everything. You just loosen everything up, unhook, and hopefully you can stop so that everything's at the same place so that you can just bing bang boom, bing bada boom, and just go around and just loosen each cam, unhook everything, and pull them off to the side, drive forward so you're off, not your tires aren't on top of the chains, and then just pick them up and put them inside the side box. You can just take and throw them off to the side. And a lot of times you can just do this by hand if they're loose enough. They should be tighter than that. You should have to use your chaining wrench, but if they'll tend to get a little loose after you've driven a while. I didn't have these chains on very long. I just had them on for a couple of miles, and then I was able to take them back off again. But the longer you have those chains on, especially if you're on pavement and there's no snow packed or anything, it's really going to tear up those chains. The longer you have them on, the more they'll just wear through, and you can toast a pair of chains on one chaining session of driving with chains on. If it's nothing but pavement and ice, it can really tear the chains up. But if you're on snow-packed roads, then the chains will last a lot longer and won't wear quite so bad. Just take them off, throw them off to the side. Sometimes one of them won't be in the same place. It will have slid forward or backward on the tire and slipped a little further, so it might be underneath or something and just won't be in a convenient spot to get to, so you might have to get back in and drive forward or backward. But I think I was able to avoid having to do that, and I was able to get everything off without having to drive forward, but it just took a little bit of trial and error to get the hook to come undone, and then once I did, I was able to just pop it off and throw it aside and go on with life. So there we go. You just throw it onto the side. There's my chaining wrench that I threw. Notice I'm just doing this by hand because they're pretty loose. And then you just gotta find the hook and unhook on back and front and just pull them off to the side. I think maybe that one I wasn't able to get, and I had to drive forward a little bit to get to it. Maybe it was backwards, and I just drove a little bit, just enough so that I could get that chain off. And I think I just had to go back over and unhook that one piece of chain, and then I was able to drive forward and pick up all the chains. Here I am. I'm going to be able to unhook that chain. And throw it off to the side. And then I can go drive forward. This is one of the things that can happen. This is one of the more minor things that can happen, where it's hard to get one off and you have to drive forward because it slips around on the tire a little bit or something. So this was actually a pretty good day for chaining because it went pretty smoothly. No chains came apart, and they didn't really get worn down very much, and they came off pretty easy. So all I did was drive forward, and then I was able to get out. You just drive forward enough that you're not on top of the chains anymore, and all of them are right behind your drives, and you just go pick them up and put them in. And then hopefully I will show you here that you put them in so that the hooks, the both ends of the chains with the hooks and the other ends with the links at the two ends are both up against the door, and the excess chain, the rest of the tire chain, is towards the back, so that when you go to pull the chains out, you can keep from hooking the chains onto other stuff, provided that you can figure out which chain is actually on the top of the other chains. So you put them in here, set the excess in the back, and then set the hooks near the door just like that, and do that with all four chains, and hopefully you can remember which chain was put in there last, so that you know which one to grab first. And you just do that with all four chains. Now this is how chaining kind of goes in Colorado over Vail and Eisenhower. Chaining laws vary across the country in different states, and different mountain ranges have different chaining laws. So in Colorado, you have to have all four outside drive tires chained, or four tires chained um, on a tractor trailer rig like this. In other states, I've heard you gotta have drag chains on the trailer tires, or you gotta have chains on the steers and stuff like that. So always check to see what the current chain laws are in each mountains that you are going to have to chain in before you go chaining, to make sure you're doing it right. But this was a pretty good day for chaining. If you see, I'm putting the hooks right by the door with all four of them. That's something a co-driver taught me a year or two ago when I was chaining on this same run, actually, that putting the hooks next to the door makes it easier to not get the chains all tied up together and then hooking on each other and stuff. It lessens by quite a bit you hooking on to the other chains by having all the hooks right by the door like that. So that was pretty much chaining. Alright guys, that was pretty much chaining in a nutshell. There's a few things I didn't show in that. Like, I didn't show me driving no more than 35 miles an hour with chains on, and you should be driving with your differential on, and you should never drive with your differential on more than 35 miles an hour, because you'll tear things up on the truck and do damage. A lot of truck drivers will drive it really fast, and they'll drive 45, 50 or better, or full speed with or without chains on, and that is bad. You'll just tear up the chains a lot quicker, have the chains flying off and busting stuff up on the truck, like your mud flaps and all that kind of stuff, and giving you flat tires and tearing out crossfires and getting flat tires and any number of things. Watch out when you're driving through the mountains for chains that other trucks have dropped on the ground. Try not to drive over top of them if you can help it, because it could hook onto your chains or get hooked into your tires or whatever, and then come up and start tearing stuff up if they get if they latch onto yours somehow, get hooked on and start wrapping around and doing stuff. You just got to be really careful. Make sure that you put your hazards on and all that. Anytime you're driving at a lower speed, anytime you're doing anything cattywampus, anything like that, you should always have your hazards on. If you're driving slow, if you got chains on, if you're backing up, if you're doing anything other than driving forward at normal speeds, you should have your hazards on in any type of vehicle, really. And just make sure that when you're driving, it is best if you crack your windows and turn off anything else in the truck so that you can hear the chains, and make sure that the chains sound the same the whole time. If they start sounding different, then you probably got chains that have come loose and are going to start falling off and tearing stuff up. So you want to stop as soon as you safely can and try to check out what's going on with your chains and figure out if you got one that has started to come off, that is worn through and have cross links that have come apart or anything else. So just do the best you can to keep an eye on stuff. Use your hearing, use your sight, and just pay attention to what's going on. There's no need to be in a hurry. Usually when you chain up, you're only going to have to go a few short miles, but it's going to take longer because you can only drive up to 35 miles an hour safely. So watch your butt, drive slow, no more than 35 miles an hour with your differential on, no more than 35 miles an hour with chains on, and you should be doing both at the same time when you got chains on if you're climbing up the mountains. And watch out for other drivers, watch out for four-wheelers that are going to be stuck on the side of the mountain, or other truckers that have tried to make it up the side of the mountain without chains on and are stuck in your way. And so be prepared to have to work your way around and dodge other vehicles, whether they be other trucks or be other cars or pickups or whatever, that aren't following the rules of the road. And usually all the traction laws are going to be on passenger vehicles like cars and trucks and whatever else probably have their laws up long before the semi trucks do. So the trip before this one that I recorded, on the way back, I saw at least probably 8 to 10 or more four-wheelers or cars, mainly little cars like Mazdas and Mitsubishis and little cars that were just front-wheel drive, that didn't have chains on, that didn't have four-wheel drive, and they were stuck on the side of the mountain trying to get up, and they were just sitting there spinning and stuck. And eventually the state patrol probably caught up with them and probably gave them a ticket for, I don't know what the fine is for cars, but I know if truck drivers get caught without chains on, stuck on the side of the mountains, they can get a pretty hefty fine. It's well over $1,000, or it could be anywhere. It's definitely several hundreds of dollars, if not well over 1,000, that they can give you. I think it might be at the discretion of the patrol officer that pulls you over or whatever. But if when in doubt, make sure you put chains on. If the chain law's up, put chains on. The law is 4 outside drive tires, or a chain across the whole axle if it's the kind of chains that are designed to go over dualies. Usually the most common chains are the ones you saw me chaining with in this video. That's the most common. They come in different styles though. They come in with these little arms, with these little links. Some of them are triangular, some of them are longer, with a long arm on them. They come in different styles and everything. So you just got to learn how to use them. Most of them are basically about the same. You just gotta learn them and figure out how to use them, because there's no way to cover every single style in a video unless I have them on hand, and usually I'm not going to have all those on hand. If I'm very, very lucky, maybe I'll have an opportunity where someone's left a bunch of used chains on the truck and I have new ones, and I have an example of 2 or 3 different kinds to show you the differences. But the most common type of chain is the kind of just showing you, where it's just the hooks and the cams that tighten, and you just got to get them on as tight as possible. The tighter, the better, folks. So drive safe. I hope you learned something from this video. Hopefully you're able to see and understand what I was talking about. So good luck, guys. And here's another very exciting video from Jason's Trucking Info. I am Jason, and thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next video. Thanks. Bye.